we have some chats coming in. Someone just said this has been a great talk in the Q&A. Now, I think the questions are public unless they're hidden, correct?
Like a time delay.
I don't see our stream yet in the
I do.
platform.
I only see David, not Yatharth.
I see a button that says enter Zoom. Is that because I'm a presenter? I won't see the stream? Hey, Yatharth, we're already live. Audio test, test, test.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Azure Databricks Ask Me Anything with Yatharth Gupta and David Meyer. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Yatharth and David to begin taking some of your questions in the Q&A. So if you have a question, please look in the interface for a Q&A tab and go over there and just type it in the box and click Ask Your Question. Now, if you see a question already asked that you like, just vote it up and we'll make sure that gets to the top of the stack. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Azure.
Thank you so much for that, Clinton. And it's good to be here. It's good to be back at Data and AI Summit. And it's always fun to be here with David Meyer. You know, we're looking forward to answering all of your questions. David also really wants to tell a joke, so please ask him to do so. And, you know, as we're getting warmed up, you know, I see a couple of comments in here. I see a couple, do I see questions? I don't see any questions just yet. But let me kickstart the conversation with something that is top of mind. You know, everybody's seen all of the announcements at Data and AI Summit. There've been some pretty exciting things. David, can you tell me a little bit about Delta sharing Azure Databricks? Is it going to be available? You know, how is it all going to come together?
That's a great topic, and it's one of my favorite topics. You know, for those of you that might have missed that part of the keynotes, we've been working together with Azure on a way to make sharing very large data sets easy and efficient across disparate systems. So there's a lot of different ways to share data, but many of the ones historically involve locking you into choosing the same proprietary system that your recipient is in. So you can share from like system to like system. And we thought about our history of baking everything in open standards, Spark, Delta, etc., and thought, wouldn't it be nice if anyone could share with anyone to set the data free? So Delta Share builds upon the Delta protocol, and it's all in open source. You don't need to use Databricks at all to use Delta sharing. And if you recall, Delta is based on the Parquet kind of open format. And so any data in Delta, and the vast majority of Azure Databricks data is in Delta, you can share with any recipient on any platform, in any cloud, in any technology. And it leverages all of the great technology in ADLS to have, and the security primitives there. So the Delta Share server shares these signed URLs that have the security baked in. And that's all the great technology that's part of the ADLS and Azure fundamentals. So anybody can consume it. And they can consume large data very efficiently. And we think that's really important for the marketplace.
That's pretty cool to hear, especially the part that, it's not client dependent. So I guess, would I be right if I said that I could create a client to consume, Delta sharing?
Yeah, you can do it from a curl statement, basically, in your terminal. Like the way it is basically there's, instead of having to understand the whole Delta transaction log, there's a server, but all it really does is return to you a list of signed URLs that you can fetch from anywhere, even a curl statement. But of course, we work deeply with a lot of parts of the Azure Fabric, Azure Synapse, etc., which can already read Delta format files. So it works seamlessly with all of that, and Azure Share and things like that. But it can be done from anywhere.
Perfect. And we do, we do already see a lot of people using Delta, certainly in Azure Databricks, but also across Azure Synapse. We have an interesting question here. Let me try to read this one from the audience. Is there a way to automate data retention within Databricks so that older records can decay into cold and then archive? I guess, if I were to paraphrase that a little bit, David, I think, the person in the audience is asking us if maybe you can try to save some money automatically by going into cold storage. I don't know if you're asking that question, but can you talk a little bit about that? And we should talk a little bit about cost savings as well.
Yeah, so there's especially in the last year, the pandemic, total cost of ownership has become a prime concern for people. And for example, we recently GA'd leveraging Azure Spot instances throughout Databricks, in Databricks pools, clusters, everything, which is a huge benefit from a TCO perspective. But regarding the actual data in the cloud storage, right now customers are implementing their own kind of cold archival strategy on top of Delta, and it gives you all of the primitives to know the age and versions and how much you want things to age before you back them off into some other storage. But another announcement this week had to do with the Unity catalog, right? Azure Databricks has always had a Hive metastore inside each workspace for storing the metadata of things. And we're evolving the capabilities there and making them more cross workspace. It's a natural evolution. But some of the policies we heard a lot about this week that people want is aging policies. I want to create this table that only is alive for 3 months. And it's auto either archived, purged, or moved to some cold storage. So those are the kinds of things people are looking to establish as a policy across their entire lakehouse. And that's something we're looking into on the roadmap.
And this question from Christopher, Christopher, thank you so much for the question. It's very interesting. David, maybe you and I, or with our team, we should write a blog about how you can save money. You spoke about Spot VMs. We, of course, have commercial vehicles that allow people to save money by doing some pre-commitments. On the Azure side, as you have on other cloud service providers, there is a choice of where you store your data, and do you want it redundant or not. And so there's a couple of techniques. Our job has always been, how can you get the most value as being our customer with the least amount of price? Like, we pride ourselves in total cost of ownership. Like, things should be fast, things should be available when
Exactly.
you want them.
And we look at that, we realize that TCO for our customers, it has a number of different components. There's the cost of the VMs. There's the efficiency of your code. There's all these different parameters. And one thing that was talked about quite a bit in the session yesterday was Photon. In fact, I have a little story about a Photon. This Photon was going to go traveling. It's like after COVID, people want to go traveling, and was checking into a hotel. And the clerk behind the desk said, "Thank you for checking in, Mr. Photon. Do you have any baggage?" And Photon said, "I'm traveling light." See, I got the little laugh from Yatharth. So Photon was announced. It's going into public preview. It has these fundamental performance advantages. It's already kind of secretly inside Azure Databricks SQL, powering a lot of those things. And Reynolds spoke about that. Matei spoke about that in the keynotes. But it's going to be available for all workloads. And what this really does is this manages the total cost of ownership, right? Because it can make things run so much faster. You save a lot on compute as well. It can help with, capacity constraints as well, because it uses so much less compute to do the same workload. And that'll be available in Azure Databricks. The future is never perfectly clear. We're targeting August. We're very excited about it, and we're trying to pull that in. So that's one of the questions that came up in the thread. But that's just one other dimension of TCO. Like, another one is humans. A lot of what you spend money on is data engineers, and that's where Delta Live tables and other things, trying to offload all of the hand tuning work around your clusters, because it does all of that for you. So as Yatharth said, TCO has been a fundamental focus of ours. And the lower we bring your TCO to achieve your business outcomes, the more we win together.
David, let's switch gears a little bit, from data engineering to a ML topic. Sebastian here has a question for us. In the announcements, I believe Matei made this announcement around Feature Store. When is Feature Store coming to Azure Databricks?
So that is something that we're rolling out. I have to look at my notes here. That's going to be coming out progressively throughout Q2. Regarding private preview or public preview, I'm not exactly sure on the details. I'm pulling those up as we speak. But if you're interested in that, reach out directly to one of us on the call or one of our normal handles, and we'd love to pull you into those conversations and help you get into the preview.
Sebastian, there you go. You can reach out to David on Twitter, and he's going to help you get access to the Feature Store.
That's a fact.
He just said that true. Live on video at the Data and AI Summit 2021. Let's see what else we got going on here. Sorry, guys, I switched my face a little bit here to read the questions. I'm
going to switch over to the chat too. The chat is very, very light.
So let's see. It's thank you, Christopher, for explaining a little bit more about data retention and why you want to put them in the cold table there. Let me see. Let me look at the chat as well.
There's a question about, we talked a lot about Delta, and again, Delta is not a mystery. Delta is Parquet with some additional files that let it have transactional completeness and statistics for fast querying and data warehouse scenarios, et cetera, et cetera. And the question is, do you have to read Delta through Azure Databricks? And the answer is an emphatic no. That is, of course, it's not a surprise that Azure Databricks processes Delta rather well, but so do other parts of the Azure ecosystem like Synapse. And some of the things announced yesterday were standalone readers both in Java and interestingly in Rust. Because up until now, people think about, oh, I need to go through Spark to access Delta with all the fidelity, and that's no longer true. You can just, in a raw JVM, we have a standalone Java reader, and we also have a new open source project around a Rust reader for Delta. And I know a lot of the, cool people like Rust. So if you're cool, you'll like Rust, and you might want to check that out.
We have another one for you from Jeff this time, David. When is SQL Analytics workspaces available in Azure Databricks?
Okay, so I'm gonna try something kind of radical here. Let me see. What happens? What happens if I share my screen? You'll have to tell me if you can see it. So I'm gonna go to the. Do you see me in the question answer place here?
Yes.
Confirmation from anyone? So this is our internal system. I'll be careful what I show. This is Azure Databricks, and you see a switcher here where I can switch between my true old data science engineering notebook view, where I spend a lot of my time because I write a lot of Scala. I actually write mostly SQL, so I don't write a lot of Scala. So I've switched over entirely to the SQL view. So it's just a simple switcher here. I can switch to that view, and then squint your eyes, don't look at what's there, and then I'm going to switch back to SQL. It's not like this is being recorded or anything. But then I can go into, if I want to see, we have our Databricks runtime, and this is just some random metric, so I'm not revealing any information here. But this is like a monthly view of releases of our Databricks runtimes and how fast they're adopted. So this is the kind of thing that I can do in the SQL interface, and it's very clean, and I have this nice SQL autocomplete. I'm not going to go into that because you'd see schemas and things, but it's within Azure Databricks. Anyone who's enabled it in the admin console, any groups they choose can have that switcher, and when you switch to SQL, you have this very natural, elegant SQL first experience where you can spin up dashboards like that.
Thank you for that, David. And Jeff, to answer your question, David answered it the long-winded way, which I always appreciate about him. SQL Analytics is available. We'd love to encourage you to go try it out. We'd love to hear feedback from you, what's working well, what's not working well. Our customers' voices are the only ones that count the most for us. So we'd love to hear back from you.
Yeah, we want your strongest feedback on that. And again, you can direct message me in Twitter, or you can always just contact me at david.meyer, M-E-Y-E-R, at databricks.com.
All right, we're going to turn to something light. Krishna's asking us what's new in the AMA. David, we made all the announcements in the keynote. So how about I ask you a little bit about something that is at the guts of our product, right? When customers use Azure Databricks today, they always start a cluster. And I personally, I hate waiting for the cluster to, get started up. I have these million jobs, they're each a minute a piece, and I got to wait for the cluster to get started. Can you talk a little bit about pools, what they do, and more importantly, how they make things faster?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about pools, and then I'll hint at something beyond pools and make Yatharth a little nervous because that's always fun. But so think of a cluster is compute that you've spun up in your VNet to do work on your data, right? So you specify the size, the machine type, maybe it's tied to one of your P3s or something like that. And that's all great, but to spin up a VM and load our software on it takes sometimes minutes, and you don't want to wait. You don't want to wait 3 minutes for a 30-second job, right? So we have the notion of pools, and what pools are is we prefetch the VMs. We still don't load the software on it. The software is containerized to exactly your job, so it's always a fresh container. But we preload the VMs, and we don't charge you any Databricks costs for those, any Azure Databricks costs. You're still paying for the VMs. So you can use that to preload your VMs, and then as soon as your cluster needs it, fetch it out of the pool. And when you fetch things out of the pool, it takes about 30 seconds, in some cases shorter, and we're working at collapsing that to much less than 30 seconds. and then you only pay for the DBUs or the Databricks dollars once you have it in your cluster. So it can be very good for short-lived jobs. It can be very good for rapid auto-scaling where you need to fetch a lot of machines. And you can also pin down quota for rare machines into a pool. So you can allocate within your environment and cluster policies how it's used. So as Yatharth points out, I give longer than necessary answers, but the short answer is yes, pools. Now, the thing I was going to hint at, again, because I want to make my friend here a little nervous of things we haven't fully figured out, but we're also working at making it so that 30 seconds collapses to like 10 seconds, and you don't have to pay for the warmed machines. We're working on a solution second half of the year for that I'm very excited about, but that's for the next Q&A.
So David, what you're saying is that the next time we are here at Data and AI Summit, I believe in the fall, or maybe next year, just to give us some breathing room, next year, you're going to say that every cluster is almost instantaneously
instant compute, and the way to simplify it is you don't have to pay for idle.
All right, that if I were a customer, that sounds excellent to me, and I'm looking forward to that. David, do you have any questions for me? I've been asking all these questions. We have a couple of things from the audience, but what can I talk about today?
Let me see. Well, I mean, I'm curious about what you're most excited about. I mean, there's also all the Microsoft announcements coming out this week. So maybe just a quick softball. What are you most excited about? And then I was going to ask you to tell me what a data mesh is. But let's first talk about what you're excited about.
Well, on the data mesh, we'd have to ask Christopher what a data mesh is, and maybe I'm not getting the reference there. I think Christopher asked that question. But I am always excited about, to me, what fascinates me is the small things that we do that bring value to customers, because I look at that as our job, right? So the customer doesn't have to worry about our most recent announcement, our launch yesterday of Spot VMs. That's something that's pretty exciting to me for a number of reasons. As an engineer, I not only look at Azure Databricks, I look at Azure all up. And we have all of these VMs that are lying around that we have purchased, right? That the customers rent from us. And if the customers are able to use that spare capacity at a lower rate, we're generating value for them, we're generating value for us, then entire system between the customer and us has become much more efficient, right? And those are the kind of things that I am very, very passionate about. As our leader at Microsoft, Satya, as he says, your success is your customer success. And Spot VM is one of these examples where, customer gets a much better deal, more VMs get utilized, less electricity in the world gets used. It's net good for everyone. So, pretty excited on how we can bring this value to our customers, and looking forward to doing many more of these for them.
That's great. I just wanted to point out that I'm not a computer science guy. I got my graduate degrees in environmental engineering. And that's what I'm most excited about regarding Photon. To do the same amount of work with a third the compute is really good for the trees, and keeping fewer fires in California. So I'm excited about that. You mentioned the little things. I wanted to just let the group know too, our overarching priority, there's a few, but one of the 4 priorities for Azure Databricks is simplicity. We know we're bringing out all these new tools. We put the persona switcher in to try to give you more of a curated environment of where you are. But frankly, what I'm most excited by in the roadmaps is we map out what we call these critical user journeys for our customers and them trying to get their work done. And we track the number of steps it takes and the number of context switches and the amount of time. And whenever I see in our roadmap, we go from 17 steps to 3 steps, that's when I get excited. So it's not a new feature announcement. It's just making the pathway through the product simpler. That's what motivates me most day to day, week to week.
That's really good to hear. And that is something that I can 100% align on you with. We talk about with the analyst total cost of ownership, how many dollars did it cost? But what about the developer? What was their cognitive load? And I think that's what you're mentioning, that we have the shared goal of reducing the developer's cognitive load, which sometimes may not be captured by the big analyst reviews. So
like Reynolds was showing in the new kind of autocomplete capabilities in Python, which is very low level. I'm really excited about if you use Azure Databricks SQL, the interface for SQL authors is getting better every week. Like the autocomplete gets better, the schema loads faster. I mean, that's the stuff that really is meaningful moment to moment in the product.
And talking about every week, I wanted to also let the audience know that we do ship every couple of weeks. So whether you're the person who's used Azure Databricks last month, or maybe, you tried it last year and we just weren't there for you, I'd strongly encourage you to go give it a shot. Like if you haven't used it for a couple of months, you're going to see some phenomenal changes. And again, we'd always love to hear back from you on, what did you think? What did we get right? What did we get wrong? The most delightful pieces of feedback are the ones that come direct and unfiltered. I did this, I'm trying it out right now, and it's really working, or maybe it's not working that well. We'd love to get all of that from you guys. Let's see.
So it's funny, someone just sent me a question via email. I just gave up my email address. And the question is there any notable performance difference between all these languages you can do in Azure Databricks? And the simple answer is no. Because it's all operating in the same execution engine and the same underlying platform. And that's the beauty, where you can be collaborating on the same flow, the same table, the same stream, where, I might only be at a SQL level. I'm sure Yatharth prefers Scala or Rust or something. But you can work interdependently, and you can have your pipelines run at the same fundamental speed. And all of the interfaces where you're working outside of the lakehouse in like a Power BI, that's where we're shortcutting those extra steps. So when you work in Power BI, the target is it's the same speed as within a notebook, or the same speed with a jar job you're running under the covers. So we want to make that all uniform in the unified platform. Within the product, it's basically on parity, and then outside the product, we're bringing that to parity as well.
Let me make sure I got that right. You're saying that my Scala code will run at the same speed as your SQL code, like just not Scala so close to the wire. Why my code doesn't run faster? You guys have figured that out?
Well, then you're clearly poking a hole in the statement there, Yatharth. So your Scala code will run faster than my SQL code, but your Scala code won't run faster than Reynolds SQL code.
Got it. And this is I love bringing this value to the customer, right? Where we say you pick your adventure, and we'll make sure that it runs fast, right? You don't have to worry about making sure that you know the lowest level language. You pick what you're comfortable with, what you grew up with, what you think is the most valuable language for you because of many constraints that you may have. And in Azure Databricks, in Databricks All Up, we're going to make sure that it runs at Photon speeds, if I can say that.
Exactly, traveling light. So and again, I don't know if you caught some of the keynotes this morning, but if you go back like 6 years, the vast majority of Spark workloads were in Scala, which, let's be honest, isn't the first language people learn in school, right? But now if you look at all the Spark workloads, they're basically 50-50 Python and SQL. Data science more leaning towards Python, analysts, BI more towards SQL. And we're making sure that everything is super simple in Python and SQL for making it simpler for the world to adopt and to get, be able to harness these very powerful tools.
Excellent, David. Thank you for that. Let's see what else we got going on over here. Can you talk to me a little bit about BI? I know that we've done some work recently with Power BI. Tell me how to think about that. Why should I use that? Why should I think about that?
Yeah, so basically, we have this thing called this product advisory board, where we bring a lot of our leading customers together. And one of the sessions we had with them last week was how to unleash the potential of your data to all of your employees. We have some customers that are relatively small companies. They're doing well, but they're small companies of say 400 employees, where 350 are on Databricks. They have people in finance on Databricks. They have people in HR on Databricks. That's pretty rare, right? Mostly it's data teams on Databricks. But then for the data to be leveraged by your company, the number of people, there's SQL analysts that work inside of a data platform like Databricks SQL. But then the number of people that use Power BI or other BI tools, it's 10x, maybe 50x as many people in the data teams. And traditionally, in a segmented world, they're operating on other systems, right? On a stale copy of the data. But with the Lakehouse, you bring everybody into the same system, and your Power BI is talking directly to Azure Databricks against the Lakehouse. So everybody's on the same data, but the key is you get everybody on the same data, the same truth. So when you're operating on business data, if I'm looking at data from this morning, I don't want you to be looking at data from yesterday or last week. It makes it so our conversation, business person to business person is diluted. And then I have to like send you CSVs and crap like that. You don't want to do that. So operating on the same data, it's critical to us that everybody that's using a BI tool is on the Lakehouse, real-time data, all the data, not a sample. And that's why the integrations we've done and the direct connectors with Power BI are so important to our strategic imperatives and our customers.
No, thank you very much for that explanation. The moderators tell me that we have only 5 minutes. So let me invite you, David, to share one of your favorite jokes with us, because I know that's something you really wanted to do.
Well, I use my Photon joke, and I have some very complicated jokes, but a lot of data science is grounded in math, and I love math, but it kind of makes me numb. Does math ever make you numb?
It does.
Like especially when I multiply by 2, I'm even number.
All right, I got it this time. Look, audience, we practiced this joke, and everybody else thought it was funny, but I couldn't get it. But I did get it this time.
Okay, that was very kind of you. I think the reason why Yatharth just asked that is the questions have slowed. But let me check my email, because there's always good questions that people send me directly.
So I think we're getting some more. Maybe my internet or my chat window is a little bit slower here. But here's a question that came up. One of our moderators sharing with us, David. Maybe this is the last one we'll take and we'll try to close. But are there any tips that you have to make Power BI queries faster?
Are there tips that I have to make Power BI queries faster? I do love working in SQL, and I think the key is it's pretty simple. Put everything in Delta. Like, a lot of people have data in their data lake, and until it's put into a format that has a lot of statistics and auto pruning and auto partitioning baked in, everything we do in Delta is continuously improving the performance of the data in Delta and getting more and more intelligent on the query planning of how we look at indices and how we have new primitives that are Photon based, et cetera. So I would say get the data into Photon, get the data into Delta. In the latest Databricks runtime, in fact, Delta is the default format. And then all of our performance teams will continuously be making your data and your queries faster without you having to think about the code at all.
So I think, David, what you're saying is sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Things will just become faster. And I would love to be a customer of a product that has that mission. Moderators, again, telling us time to wrap up. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me to Data and AI Summit. I want to thank you for answering some of the audience questions. I sprinkled some of mine in there. I really appreciate it. And to our audience, we hope you got a little bit. It was a short conversation. We hope you got a little bit out of this. David and I are always available to answer any of your questions. again, we strongly encourage you and we invite you to come try out our product. Give us feedback, tell us what's working, tell us what's not working. If you do believe that you don't have a data problem, I want to know that. I haven't found any customer that doesn't have a data problem. So if you do find yourself in that situation, do reach out to us and we're going to help you out over there. Any closing words from you, David?
No, thank you. And thank you for your time. And that was a lot of fun, Yatharth. Yatharth and I talk like 12 times a day. So you can get to me through him or him through me. Just let one of us know if you have a question. We'd love to help. And thank you for all the prep on this, Clinton, and everyone else, Katie, helping out. This was super helpful.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.